Hello there, I'm Nerbax, and welcome to this quick guide on expertise, how it works, why it is so important, and how you can gain and lose it. So let's first start with what is expertise. Plainly said, expertise is just stats. It is actually the majority of your car's performance, as you will see here. Let's start with the underfloor as an example on how expertise works. So as you see, we have an underfloor. It has 5 different attributes: drag reduction, low, medium, and high speed downforce, and airflow sensitivity. Now, all of these have their own expertise, and it's part specific. So, drag reduction expertise from, say, my underfloor here, 77.18, does not carry over to the drag reduction of the chassis, which is 61.01. Now, the reason why expertise is so important, I think we'll go through first, simply because, well, expertise is extremely important for your performance. As you can see, the expertise here for my underfloor drag reduction is 77.18%, and the total attributes is 91.65. Now, 77.18 out of that 91.65 is the expertise alone. So for the underfloor here, and this one has every other stat available at almost maximum. Aerodynamics gives 4.25, technical chief gives 4.6, wind tunnel, CFD time gives 2.5 almost each, and the design focus gives 0.66. You can get it slightly higher with these stats, but this is generally how high it can go. You can gain a few percentage point or two more, basically. So again, expertise will account for 80 to 90% of the performance gained from, say, your underfloor or any of the other parts. So that is why expertise is so important. It is the majority of the stats, and sometimes it's almost all the stats, up to 90%. That is why it's important. Now, expertise is, again, a stat, but the easiest way I find to explain it is expertise is how skilled your team is at handling an attribute for a part. So basically, you can look at this. 77%, our team is very skilled at handling drag reduction for the underfloor. Now, in terms of expertise, it's also important to note that the higher it gets, the slower it goes up. So, for instance, we're going to use research here to show you, because research just generally will give you the expertise gain immediately as a research benefit. So if we do a project here, or design, with the same sliders, let's say we do this, just as an example, that 1.74 expertise gain would be the same as design, but the design won't tell you that. So if you want to calculate how much expertise you're going to gain for a project, you can do it by using your research. Now, the thing here is, the lower your expertise is, the more you're going to gain per project. It starts to peter out around the 70% mark, so once you reach 70%, you might want to start focusing on either a different attribute on the same part, or a different part altogether. Keep in mind though that different parts have different performance gain. A single percent of expertise in any of the underfloor stats will generally be far more valuable than a single percent gain in rear wing stats. Same for front wing. So your underfloor is your number 1 that you want to develop, your rear wing is your number 2, your front wing your number 3, and chassis, side post, and suspension are generally pretty close to each other. Suspension will probably win out a bit more in terms of cornering, side post and chassis in terms of speed, but focus your underfloor, then your rear wing, and then your front wing, and you'll have most of the work done. And I'm going to show you, because our current car is actually pretty good. Now, if you press E, excuse me, you get up a menu here that will show you your stats compared to the rest of the grid. So our car is number 1 in everything. But if we have a look at the chassis, our car is 19th. Basically, end of the grid. If you have a look at our side pods, they're also pretty bad, 13th, 19th. This translates to second, because to last place, because each team has 2 cars. And our suspension, which is slightly better, but not great, 15th, 7th, and 14th. If we check our front wing though, it starts to get better. We're first in high speed, third in medium, second, and third in low speed. So again, we're getting better. Rear wing, we're only lacking a bit in airflow and drag reduction, otherwise we are a strong first. And our underfloor is just one first. We focused a lot into it, but the underfloor alone has allowed us to gain a car that is way better than any other on the grid. And if we compare it to our closest rivals, the Ferrari, for instance, you can see way better. The Red Bull, again, we are a bit better, and the Mercedes. So that is why, for starters, expertise is so important, but it's also very important to focus on what you put your expertise into. Try and focus your underfloor, try and focus your rear wing, and try and focus your front wing first. Now, in terms of gaining expertise, there's only two real options of doing so. It is designing pieces and doing research. Now, when it comes to designing, your gains are, well, based on two things. How you distribute your focuses, like so. If we distributed our focus like this, we'd have more gains of expertise in airflow middle and drag reduction, and we'd have less gain in engine cooling because we're sacrificing engine cooling time. We focus more on drag reduction and airflow. You can focus on all of them. You'll gain more expertise than if you kept everything in the middle, but it'll take a longer time, but you'll gain slightly more expertise. So doing this in the beginning is perfectly viable, and it's probably the best way. Once you reach around 70-75% mark, you might want to try and focus certain stats. And also, in terms of gaining expertise through designing, you have three modes here of approach: normal, rushed, and intense. You want to use intense whenever you can, because it's basically a huge gain to your expertise at the end of the project. Running intense will net you about 1.5 times as much prestige expertise as if you ran rushed or normal. So intense is your best bet for expertise gain. Rushed will make the project go quicker, but you'll lose a little bit of expertise. It's very minor. But in general, the best way of gaining expertise is max all focuses, run the project on intense, and if you can, put in some CFD and mal hours. It will help, but it will not be very effective. The most effective way of using CFD and CFD and wind tunnel hours for expertise gain is actually in research, which we will be going on to now. So designing, again, is very, very effective. Use intense if you can for the best gains. Make sure you put your focuses correctly too, generally, or everything to the right works. This is 1.6, it might change in 1.7. I'll make a comment on that if it changes a lot with the balance. But we'll get off to research pretty quickly and see how research affects expertise. So research works differently from design. Design will give you an expertise boost, and you can then, apply that to the next one. But even if you do not do another project with design, the expertise is still there. Now, when it comes to research, research will give you also expertise boost, but it will do it in a different way. So let's use the chassis here as an example. As you can see, we have the expertise here, 68.32, and we have a research benefit here if we complete this project at 0.63. Now, the way research works is that this is actually expertise, but it will not get applied until the end of the season. So once we start the next season, these two numbers get added together, and our expertise starting out that season becomes 68.95, provided we don't do anything more than just these two projects for chassis drag reduction. So that is how expertise works. In general, also, wind tunnel hours and CFD mal hours are way more valuable as research expertise gains. So if you really do not need a part or want another part in the season, I implore you, please do use your aerodynamic hours for research rather than designing if you're going for just pure expertise gains. Excuse me, my throat is a little bit sore. But yeah, use your aerodynamic hours on, again, research if you're purely going after expertise. Now, the way to lose expertise is through regulation changes, and you can see them down here. We have engine cooling, and we have airflow middle, losing 10% and 30% expertise. This is one of the first things you'll work on during the season, and it also will unlock research for you for that season. So, for airflow here, we're losing 30% of our expertise. Now that is our current expertise, it's 62.82. We're losing 30%, which is 18.85. And you might think that that's quite bad. This doesn't actually start until next season, but in terms of research, it's as if this has already happened. So the research benefit that you're getting here is as if your current expertise was this number minus this number, which would be about 44%, which means that by researching to cancel out that malus, if we focus purely on airflow, this one research would give us 4.6% expertise. So research is there, as an option. Say research is also a easier way to, sorry, not easier, a cheaper way of gaining expertise. If say you want to invest into your facilities or doing something else with your game basically. But the main purpose of research is to alleviate regulation changes and to counter these before the next season, so you do not lose as much expertise. Now, I did say putting research into, or using MAU hours and aerodynamic hours of research is important. But if you're going to use it to increase expertise, I would advise you to prioritize your underfloor, as that is where you'll see the biggest gains, then your rear wing, then your front wing, then any of the other three. Underfloor is the number one thing you need to focus on if you want to have a good car. Rear wing should be second or third, front wing should be second or third, depending on if you need cornering. Cornering is front wing, speed is rear wing. So consider that depending on what you yourself prefer. I prefer underfloor, then rear wing, then front wing, and as my priorities, just how I am. But yeah, expertise itself is very important, but getting the expertise into the right places is even more important, honestly. So when you get expertise or want to improve expertise, focus your underfloor. It's going to be very expensive in the beginning of saves, but as you trundle along and get into season 2, maybe season 3, you'll see that that investment into the underfloor in season 1, that investment into rear wing and front wing will really start paying off because the stat gains are great. Now, in terms of also expertise and next season, when you press the next season button, you get a new car, but all the parts on that car does not have their focuses set. So keep in mind, when you start a new season, you will be receiving parts that are made like this. So you want to make every new part again like this, which will again give you much better boosts than if you again had average parts. So keep that in mind. Now, I think I've gone through everything. Expertise is actually pretty straightforward. It's a number attached to a part. That part has substats that all have their own expertise. And you basically want to try and get it as high as possible. Once you hit 70, 75%, it starts to really slow down. Try and make sure that all the other pieces are catching up. Again, underfloor is your number one priority. Try and keep rear wing and front wing maybe 5% behind, 10% tops. And then again, behind that again, rear wing, front wing. Try and keep your chassis, your sideboards, your suspension 5 to 10% behind. And you'll probably see the greatest improvement to your car that way. Because again, underfloor just gives you so much more stats than any of the other things. Your rear wing and your front wing just give you so much more performance to your car rather than chassis, sideboards, and suspension. Design with intents is the best way, but research is perfectly fine, and research is the best way to counter expertise drops from regulation changes. That is basically it, I think, for this guide. Again, it's pretty simple, but as long as you understand what expertise is and where it's best invested, you'll have a much better time. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to add them in the comments. I'll try and respond as quickly as possible. Again, thank you for watching. If this video has helped you, please like and subscribe, as it helps me out a ton as well. And hope to see you next time. Bye bye.